Nacho, sit down and entertain the masses.
Oh, shit.
What?
We're on 31.
Huh?
We're on episode 31.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I thought we had time for a really brief power smoke.
Nope. Sit down and entertain the masses. It's 4:06.
4:06? Oh,
Yeah,
I thought we were doing 4:10.
Yeah, I know, but I gotta share the thing to the Facebook group and stuff.
I'm all alone. There's no one here besides me. I think the audio's gone, but I don't know because I'm not checking.
I'm off screen and...
Because we are the 3DMs.
Alright.
Oh, you were supposed to yell, Nacho, stop singing.
You're not a donkey, though.
That's why you yell Nacho, not donkey. We've watched way too much Shrek lately.
Dude, I think everybody on the planet has actually watched way too much Shrek.
I'm just talking over the last couple weeks.
No, but I'm just saying, like, I've just seen so many people, like, talking about watching Shrek lately, other than us. It's weird.
You know, there was that one day we were playing and kiddos were in the other room watching it. I think I saw it 3 or 4 times that day.
Let's see.
Between waiting for the game to start, game starting, and yeah, just Shrek on repeat.
Shrek is love, Shrek is life.
The Shrekening.
All right, make sure our sound's working for the love of God, and I'm going to go grab a drink, and then we'll get started.
Well, my phone's over there, so this is how I'm going to test. As I do the chair waddle to grab my phone, test ye old audio. Let us see. The audio does in fact work.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
You have one
we
more
did
minute
one
to,
thing right.
You have one more minute to entertain the masses.
As I'm sitting here by myself, Jake leaves the room. Paul somehow missing. Instead of Very Lonely Luke, it's now Very Lonely Nacho. Now, if I could actually find our video, I could share it as well. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to do. On the docket today, we got Paul's stories from Gen Con and introducing new players. The door is wide open, so normally that would be an issue, but nobody else is in the studio at the moment, so I could sit here and ramble. Because rambling is the best I can do at the moment.
You rambling in here again?
Yes, I'm rambling because you were nowhere to be found, and Jakey Poo left us.
Well...
could you plug my phone into the charger that's sitting on the chair? Paul missed the Very Lonely Nacho song, so eventually we'll have to show him the playback.
I'll see it sooner or later, I'm sure.
Oh, you should.
All right, let's take a look here. All right. Oh, ow. This may be too far back for me.
Yeah, that's the funky mic.
Let us try. That is a cord that is way too short. I guess we're going to have to... Oh, this one's also not working.
Well, it's turned off, but...
Huh. Yeah, this headphone cord is way too short also. maybe I can just wear these headphones.
Yeah, well, that mic's turned off, so I guess I'll go turn that on.
I'd appreciate it.
That is 5.
Yes, indeed. Well, hello there, Jake.
What are you over there doing now?
He's turning on this microphone because this one's not really functional.
That's weird. Because he was coming through just fine in the headset.
Oh, no, it's more about him just not
Actually,
liking the mic placement because it is the unadjustable.
Testing. Nothing?
There, now you're
Oh,
unmuted.
there we go. Yep, there I am.
I double tapped it.
Excellent. Hello there, children. Would you like to play a game?
No. Not like that. Do you want to play a game?
We're not going that far.
You know what?
No.
This is what happens when you leave me unattended in the studio. Now, I want to apologize first to anybody that had to sit through my ramblings as I was left alone in here.
All of us apologize.
No, I don't apologize. We make Paul do it every week while we finish up and go have a cigarette. So,
Yeah, but that's different. That's Paul.
wow.
People love Paul.
Wow.
The people love Paul.
Okay.
I'm not so sure about that one.
Fado, can we get a fact check on that? People
Anyways.
love Paul.
Welcome to the 3DMs podcast, everybody. We're on episode 31. I'm Jake, joined by these two goons, Nacho and Paul, as per usual. Sorry we've been gone for a couple of weeks. Between GenCon happening and Nacho's truck dying.
It is DED dead.
Yeah, we don't have Sarah McLachlan ready to play, but
No. Last time you did that, I almost cried. And then I almost had to beat our coworker up and steal his car because he kept singing it.
Can we move on a little bit here?
No, it was a pretty traumatic event. Moving on. Yeah, we're back after some finagling and getting another vehicle to make our trek all the way out here to the studios at Podcast Detroit. And let's dive into our show because we got a lot of stuff to actually cover. So first of all, Paul, you are our eyes and ears on the ground at GenCon and couldn't find any of the official booths because your schedule was already pretty packed with vacation stuff.
Yes. Well, I saw a lot of booths, but the Wizards of the Coast booth was hid somewhere. I mean, I'm sure Hasbro had a booth. I saw some people walk around with Magic the Gathering T-shirts, but that place is the size of an airplane hangar. It's packed with 8 million people. I could not find the official Dungeons & Dragons merchandise anywhere.
Maybe it was in Lehman's tiny hut.
Damn, you got me there. They got a Mordenkainen's magnificent mansion somewhere in the back?
It's possible. It is possible.
Well, in GenCon news, apparently Richard Garfield's making another card game. Infinity came out with another army for their war game. Warhammer's also coming out with a card game. Everyone and their mother seems to be doing that nowadays. Again.
But it costs so much money.
It's digital, though.
Oh.
But the digital cards, I feel like, are going to be like $10 a pack.
Yeah, well.
Because Games Workshop is about their paper.
Yes.
You want more lore? You like how everything in the grimdark 41st millennium is actually starting to look up just a little bit?
No. We're going to reset everything and make it dark again. They did that.
Or will they?
All hail the
No,
Commander
they
of
did
Mankind.
that. That was with the 8th edition.
No, I thought that was everything was looking brighter. But whatever. We're not a 40K show. We're a D&D show.
I did not get that much information on Dungeons & Dragons. Pathfinder is getting a 2nd edition. may a curse be upon the designers' houses.
A plague upon both your houses.
Frankly, I don't have much nice to say about that, so I'm going to end my statement on that now.
Power of positivity, Paul.
Yep.
Love it. Got to keep it up.
Did
Did you see anything particularly noteworthy at GenCon? Just something really cool, because still, me and Nacho really wanted to go, but
Well, there was that
didn't buy.
tower of cards that people built out of old cards from trading card games. It looks like Legends of the Five Rings is finally getting its new role-playing game edition.
oh,
BattleTech is getting another box set released finally
there we go.
after 12 years. What else?
Any slamming cosplay?
Unfortunately not. I saw almost no good cosplay this year, which is kind of a shame.
Oh.
What did you cosplay as?
Myself.
Average D&D player.
Yeah.
Look at me with the beard
The glasses and the fat.
and the fat. Delicious fat.
I don't think you need glasses, considering you're the only one at this table with glasses.
I legally need them. I don't wear them because I don't want to look like a dork.
Wow, rude.
Nerd.
Anyway, the long and short of it is I spent most of it just hanging out with my father and bonding, but that's not exactly conducive to fantastic stories of Gen Con. So
Well,
I got nothing useful for you guys. So.
well, damn, that blows.
Well,
Well,
we know there's a
it's
digital Warhammer card game, so we got that.
yeah, there you go.
Yep, nope. I can go waste money on that.
Or not. I would recommend not, but
No, I will waste my money on non-tangible cards.
Games Workshop, take my money. Moving on. So, a couple of weeks ago, before vehicles started blowing up and people were getting sick at the Gen Con and really just all the other stuff that has happened to us, we had a listener message us and request a specific show topic, and we're like, actually, we haven't talked about that, so we're going to do that today, and that is introducing new players to the great and glorious game of Dungeons and Dragons.
I should lead this off by saying that if you're introducing somebody to role-playing games as a whole, there are better options than 5th edition D&D. 5th edition is definitely the best option of the D&Ds, but I'd recommend something like Fate or Dungeon World first.
Why would you recommend Fate or Dungeon World? I can see the appeal for Dungeon World. Fate seems about the same level of complication as 5e, which isn't severely.
No, Fate is a lot less complicated overall. There's a lot less things to manage. There's less dice types to manage. There's a lot less edge cases to manage. There isn't a huge list of spells in the back of the book. There isn't a huge list of saves and there are proficiencies in Fate as well. And most stunts are pretty simple by comparison to most class abilities. So there's just a lot less to do. And basically, Fate is mostly a game of describing your actions and seeing if one of your keywords can apply to it.
So D&D is better.
That's certainly one way to look at it.
Thanks for being-
Mired in the past is another way.
Thanks for being the Homer Nacho.
That said, 5th edition is definitely the best of the D&Ds to introduce them to, and I'm a huge fan of 5th edition.
So, talking about this in the car, figuring out, how really, because a lot of us, Nacho, you're the newest here to DMing, but Paul and I, we definitely can kind of look at the amount of people we've taught to play D&D and actually blush a little bit. Like, I started doing the counting, and I've actually introduced probably about, just in various one-shots and, online, like, hey, I'll teach some new players how to play. I've probably taught over about 100 different people how to play the game.
Well, I haven't taught that many, but it's more like 40.
I'm not sure how many I taught. I generally taught from the player's standpoint and kind of coaching them through different things.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're a good offensive coordinator, Nacho.
So
That's what I do.
I should also point out that a lot of people are... D&D is at its most popular as it's ever been right now, in part due to the popularity of stuff like the Adventure Zone and... is it Matthew Colville's podcast
Critical
name?
Role.
Critical Role, that's it.
And Harmon Quest.
Yep.
And Harmon Quest. And, I mean, actually, it's getting to the point where there's so many, you can't...
Quality that I can't name them off the top of my head.
There's just so many, that it's getting hard to...
Yeah, and then
the space is getting pretty crowded out
and
there.
then you even had Stranger Things getting people interested.
Yeah,
Yeah. And being a nerd is finally socially acceptable. So,
for the moment.
yeah. Well, it
They're
seems...
not
seems-
taking our lunch money right now.
Yeah. We'll give it another 5 years. We'll rotate back.
Yep.
But...
So it seems like there's going to be a lot more people now interested in getting into this hobby than there have been in the past. So this is, I think, a very topical question.
Yeah. And so let's start with the very beginnings. You are approached by one of your friends. You're sitting there eating lunch, or maybe you get a text message, and your friend approaches you and says, "Hey, buddy, guy friend.
I heard you run some D&D games.
Can I get in on some of that action? Can I get me a slice of that pie, so to speak?" No one talks like that, but
We're being...
this one person does.
Sure. Your friend is a 1920s mobster, I hate to tell you.
Yeah. No, it's a shame.
Yeah, pick up a hot and ready. Meet us at this house at this time.
Yeah. So you make the arrangements.
Just make sure they're not carrying a violin case with them.
No one brings roses to a gunfight. So you make your arrangements. They come over, and they're a brand new player. So let's just address a couple of like factors that can change a lot of things, but there's, we're not going to touch on them too much because it's too wild cardy. It depends on one of them, for example, is how many players at your table are experienced. Is this a lamb walking into a den of wolves? Is everybody here pretty new to the game?
In general, I would recommend getting a bunch of new players together, or at least having maybe one or two experienced players to sort of shepherd them if they do something stupid.
Yeah.
But
you can't. These are things that you have like very little control over.
yes.
So this is going to be more of an in general.
You don't have a roster of 100 players to pick from usually.
This is going to be more of an in general, like how do you particularly help this one new player? And stealing from Magic the Gathering, we have decided to label the 3 basic types of new players. I mean, everybody's a little different.
Archetypes, subclasses, if you will.
Yeah. Everybody's a little different in the way they approach, but
And this
these
is
are
very general advice.
Yeah, this is very general. But this is how we're going to be referring to these people with these terms for the majority of the episode, and that is with stolen from Magic the Gathering.
These player profiles. We've got Timmy, Jenny,
Yeah.
and Spike.
So, Timmy, break it down for us.
So Timmy is there as a social experience. Ultimately, the rest of the game doesn't really matter as much as it is having fun with your friends. They sort of exemplify the credo that a Dungeons & Dragons game is like a road trip. The car is not what matters. The people you're road tripping with is what matters.
That's adorable.
So at the end of the day, the Timmy, or the Tammy, if they're female, obviously, is most interested in hanging out with their friends and having a good time. They're not particularly interested necessarily in the mechanics. Perhaps they were introduced by the Adventure Zone or another of the podcasts we listed, where the basically wacky shenanigans are what keeps them.
Yes, although I will
invested.
say, just as a quick aside, I've had people who have approached me and wanted to learn how to play coming from Critical Role, and typically they have a much better grasp on the rules. And as much as I love the McElroy brothers, who host the Adventure Zone, which is actually my favorite live play podcast, I'm going to say that all right now. And even though they comment several times that, the internet tells us we're playing D&D wrong, they do. The 3 players absolutely do. They're really bad at it. I love them to death, and I love the show, but damn, am I glad they're playing Monster of the Week now, because every now and again, just something would happen. Like, I remember I was at the gym once, and I can't even remember exactly. Like, somebody cast a spell that wasn't even on their spell list, and I literally stopped what I was lifting and said out loud, "You can't do that."
I bet that got you some looks.
Yeah, no, the lady on the treadmill turned around and she's like, "What the hell are you doing?" So
Throw the weights
getting
down.
that out of the way.
You can't do it, damn it.
Your form is all wrong.
Looking like I'm having a mental
not a
breakdown
druid.
in the gym because I'm listening to a D&D podcast. Anyways, so I've had people who listen to that show and then they start playing and they're a lot looser with the rules. So it does kind of, depend on where people hear that they're coming from. But
And again, I recommend Fate for those players. But
yes. But back to the main primary, issue here. Timmys are just the players who want to have fun.
yes,
They're,
they're here to have a good time with their friends.
yes. Johnny/Jenny.
Jenny is there to do something bizarre. Is a way that would put it in Magic terms, is they want to do something ridiculous. In the player archetypes that we're focusing here for the new player archetypes, Jenny is the person who gets super invested in the game and is trying to pull off something strange. Not necessarily the most optimal thing, but they've got a character in mind that they really want to play.
They've read the rules. They're very passionate about learning this new game, where a lot of Timmy players will just be like, yeah, just walk me through it. And which
Tell
we're
me
happy to do.
exactly what I need to know, and that's all I'm going to remember.
Yep. A Jenny/Johnny is going to be the person who, like, either they will borrow a player's handbook or they will go out and buy one shortly after they start playing. They're the player who gets really into D&D really quick once they kind of realize what, like, they can do, which is everything. And it's all about, you know, for them, it's this new creative energy and excitement that they can go through. And usually they're the player who ends up becoming a DM one day.
Yeah, because they've got so much creative spirit that they're trying to express. Do we get a comment just now? Or?
Yes, my foreman.
What,
Hi, John.
what's John saying now?
Is D&D like playing craps with dice? I need to roll a 7 or 11 until I get a point. Yes, John. Yes, John.
You're not actually entirely wrong, but
Anyway.
And no, John, you don't need a card for that.
Anyways, on to the last player type. There's Spike.
Spike doesn't need a male or female name. Spike simply is.
Yeah, Spike simply exists. Spike is the very hostile player in this sense that we're using. Spike is the player who shows up and wants to win, be better than everybody. You know, they have an idea for a character, and whereas the Johnny or the Jenny, their character might be, you know, kind of pushing their way to the front of the crowd.
Because they've got so much they want to say.
Yeah, Spike's character usually just shoves everybody aside and says, don't worry, guys, it's all about me.
I've got every skill we could possibly need for this.
Sometimes they end up like Mario and completely outshine the rest of the party.
Yeah.
Or they're like Toad and they keep shouting, I'm the best, and just get
And
destroyed.
one day you believe it. So let's, like, from the very top. So you got these players. The first thing, obviously, they have to do is they have to get a class.
Well, there's races too, but we'll get to that in a moment.
You know, we'll go
That's
to
less important as far as character definement.
I feel the races are more based on how you
yeah,
wanna
you know,
play your class.
it's you know, and it's an optimization thing too with the race. Like, if you want, you know, to be optimal, you can.
You pick Variant Human.
Yeah, you pick Variant Human, or you pick Half Elf, and you know
Or you
you move
pick
on.
Variant Human.
Yeah,
Feats are good.
Half Elf ain't bad either though.
It's a good number too.
But then, you know, if they want to play Dragonborn, let them play Dragonborn. If they want to play, you know, we're not even going to go into the optimization of races. But we are going to go into class mechanics, because for certain new players,
Some classes are more complicated than other classes, and that's probably the least controversial thing I've ever said.
yeah,
that's actually groundbreaking.
yeah, that is an ice cold brew of a statement. That is not a hot take.
That's the opposite of a hot take. So the problem is that new players in general are not going to be down with the metaphorical sickness. They're going to want to pick something off the list, but your goal is you don't want them to get overwhelmed with options and choices, because that's a good way to make somebody less interested and have less fun.
I personally, usually when I have a brand new player and they already don't know what they want to play, because usually a Johnny or a Spike, they will know damn well what they want to play.
Johnny because they've got a character in mind, and Spike because they read an online guide about how to break the game.
Yes. So those two will be ready to rock. So this pertains mostly to a Timmy who's like, oh, what the hell even is a D&D? I want to play it, but I don't understand it. And so my advice for, like, the guy who doesn't even know what they want, the guy or girl who does not know what they want to play, is just say, you know, ask a very simple questionnaire. You know, what do you envision your character doing? Do they fight with swords, you know, face to face? Do they sneak around a lot? You know, just use the very general terms. You know, do they cast magic?
Another thing worth noting is that some people may not be familiar with character creation in a sense at all.
Yeah.
Some people may not have played games or pretend or like that, where they did not pretend to be another person. You may have to walk them through that.
Yes.
What I've done to help players was I've stolen from Elder Scrolls Morrowind and Oblivion. If you don't pick your own skills by yourself, they have that questionnaire, and you're just asking random stuff that they don't think actually applies to it, and it's like, no, this is what you want.
Yeah. It's just, try to shape. There's a bunch of like those good online flowcharts too, but just try to shape questions to direct players, towards what sounds like the best. Like the second they say they want to cast magic, well, what
you can
kind of,
suddenly cut off fighters, barbarians, and most of rogues.
Yeah.
So.
And you have to gently lead them to the path of where they want. Again, never overload them with information, because for a very social player, the second,
They have to start making compare and contrast choices. They're going to
the second they
lose
have to do homework is when
interest.
it becomes difficult for some of them.
At the end of the day, you're trying to have fun.
Yes. And that brings us to the point of the safest classes for a Timmy. Now, a Timmy, at the same time, if they want to play something,
Don't just deny them.
yeah, don't tell them that it's going to be too hard for them, because that's a good way to piss somebody off. Don't tell them that, it's not going to be easy, and, just be like, okay, talk them through it and just, kind of let them know what they're getting in for. But we do have a list of the easiest.
If you're going to recommend a class to them.
Yes. The easy, and they're all martial classes except for the monk. The monk isn't on here. That's going to be fighter, rogue, ranger, paladin, and barbarian. All of them are
Completely uncontroversial classes.
yeah. Nope. Here's why. They all offer very simple, straightforward mechanics. The paladin can get a little crunchy.
If you're going for the optimal routes.
A little crunchy.
But that's if you want to, if they want to play a spellcaster, that's the easiest spellcaster.
Yeah, them and Ranger, because Ranger also gets some spells. It's good to teach players who are pretty new to the game how to use spellcasters with those, because
Vatican magic is a bit unintuitive to people at first.
yeah,
So
and the idea of, because I've seen this happen to 100 brand new wizards, is, like level 1.
I have to choose out of 16 different spells. I get to choose one.
Yeah, they.
It's not listed which ones, what their descriptions are. Not even a brief description.
Yeah, there's just a big old fat list of, and we're forgetting cantrips too.
Yeah.
You got your big old fat list of cantrips, and you got your fat list of level 1 spells, and then they level up again, and then guess what? They get to look at another fat list of spells
with no description.
with
listed.
no description list, and they have to dig all the way through the book.
I hope that's a change that's made with 6th edition, is they give a very brief description with each spell. I know it's a tremendous amount of work, but it would make spell selection so much easier for new players.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That is, again, at one point there's going to be a hot take somewhere in here, I hope.
Or even just putting a little marker like damage,
Just
crowd
like,
control.
yeah, put the keywords on it or something.
Yeah. I feel like maybe they would have done that if
Utility.
people hadn't just tried to burn 4th edition back into the crater from which it spawned, which is a shame.
Rest in peace, 4th edition.
Rest in peace. In the eyes of an angel.
I've heard this song way too much between today and Friday when I found out my truck was dead.
All right,
Sorry,
regardless.
Moving on.
I'm gonna cry.
So when it comes to class choice for the Johnny,
Johnny or Jenny, I should say, probably already has an idea of what they want to do in mind.
yeah,
So you just need to ask them what they would like to do and then suggest good classes for that kind of character concept.
yeah, suggest good classes. And I find the biggest problem, this can happen to any new player, but Johnnies are the ones who are guilty of it the most. They're the ones with the most excessive backstories.
Yeah.
They're the player who shows up with like 4 written pages. And it's like, so you're level 1,
And you've done all this stuff already.
and your father was killed by a dragon, and then you went there, but you killed the dragon, but then the dragon's son came and killed your wife 5 years later, and then you went and killed that dragon, but that dragon already had another baby, and so that dragon killed your son. And you're
and
level
so
1.
the long
and then you
day
ascended
goes
to
on.
godhood.
And yeah, and so you're level 1 now. They it's an oversimplification, but they will have these excessive backstories, and that can, sometimes be a little overwhelming. And so,
I should note a certain level of backstory is certainly good. I like
yeah.
writing up, a couple pages of backstory, but that's mostly fluff information
Yes.
for stuff around the character.
as we're going to say about the Johnny, the biggest thing that you just have to do for that player who's super excited and super excited to create stuff for your game is just rein them back. just, you got to rein them in a little bit, and temper their expectations and try to
Don't crush their dreams.
don't crush their dreams.
But you
There's a
need
lot of
to
times they have
make
good
them
ideas, but they gotta
Not
fit.
shove everyone else aside to
Yeah.
make room for that.
They have to fit into what you're doing and how you're doing it.
And remember, if you think you may be a Johnny,
Seek help.
as soon as you meet someone,
Or saving that for that.
you're not going to give them your whole backstory. Like, let it come out naturally. Don't force it out there.
Yeah,
It's true.
but that's just
But then again, this is not a column for new people,
I know.
unfortunately. So
Yep.
you probably will never see this.
But just in case.
Just in case.
Just in
they do.
case. It's
Just
true.
in case I can help one person.
And that brings us to Spike.
I should pre-warn this. Spike is not inherently a negative archetype. In 1v1 games like Magic the Gathering, Spike is a vital archetype for people to have. In fact, even in cooperative games like Dungeons & Dragons, a Spike can be useful if they're an experienced player to help all these other players still contribute while not, dominating, is they can help them saying that while an interesting option, that is not going to do much for you. Here's something similar you could do instead, because they tend to know the rules front and back.
Yes. Well, that we're talking about
The new players.
an ancient Spike.
Yes, the Grognard Spike, if
Yes.
you will.
The ancient worm Spike. No, the hatchling Spike, though.
The Spike that has gone to the dark side because he saw Force Lightning and wanted to do that.
So that's my forewarning. Is I started off not as a Spike, but sort of a Spike Johnny hybrid when I was but a young lad.
Blend.
But regardless, let's dive in. Get your pipe wrenches ready.
So when it comes to a Spike, and again, this is already somebody that you've identified as like showing these
Traits.
These traits.
Not
of-
everyone fits into one mold.
Yeah, everybody can kind of sprinkle around a little bit to different stuff, but a Spike definitely fits into the idea of they want their character to be the best.
They want to win.
They want to win the game of D&D, and it's not a game about winning. It's it's a road trip, but
The Spike has not gotten that message.
they haven't figured it out yet.
But you're
can't-
sitting on the other side of the screen, so we must be against each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the Spike will either come in with a shockingly well prepared and optimally put together character sheet. Despite it being their first time, they
It looks like it was printed off from Giant in the Playground forums or something.
yeah, weird how that worked out. And they just changed a name using the point buy system. Yeah, no, everything's fine. That's case number one. In the extreme break glass and grab pipe wrench, they will show up with some wildly broken homebrew.
And demand they get to play it.
And they want to play it because Spikes are the very first player to go, that's what my character would do.
I should note
the worst version of Spike, the Spike
The
that I'm
chaotic
envisioning.
neutral Kender Rogue.
Yes.
more Tiefling Rogue, but Kendra's probably worse.
Kender Rogue raised by tieflings.
So I should note that many Johnnies are probably also going to bring homebrew to you. That's because they found something they think fits their character better than one of the core options.
Yes.
You should at least look at that and consider it, and you could possibly make adjustments for them.
For a Johnny, yes. For a Spike, it's almost...
It's because it's got something. Look very carefully because there's something stupidly broken in here that you
There's
haven't
something
seen
very
yet.
exploitable.
The-
I like how
the
we're
ex-
talking about
yeah.
Spike like it's a dangerous, like it's a velociraptor or something. The Spike is just looking for a way to trick you.
Yep.
They are.
As a DM, yeah, no.
She's looking to put one over you.
As a DM, you're sitting there just like Muldoon in Jurassic Park. Clever girl. And then you get jumped by a raptor from the side.
Yeah, an example of a Spike Jake and I played with in Clint's game.
Clint was so lucky he had us as players.
Yeah, so this person found the Final Fantasy homebrew. He wanted to play a Moogle. He also wanted to play a blue wizard or blue mage, which, if you're not familiar with it, they take enemy abilities and use those.
Yeah. And Clint consulted me about this. Showed me both homebrews. I told Clint, the Moogle's okay. The blue wizard, no way in hell. Don't let it happen. Don't do it. The Moogle's already was pretty strong. Wasn't very inhuman strong, but it was,
It was
It was
pretty
half
much
elf or mountain dwarf strong.
pretty much a reskinned halfling with a little bit of telekinesis.
natural flying ability, telekinesis abilities, a couple other neat little built-in powers. So it was definitely annoying.
But it's not stealing Tarrasque fucking...
Magic Carapace.
Yeah,
I'm immune to spells.
I lost my train of thought.
No, you're good. I'll take over.
These things.
Point is, this player who... No, we're going to name him Tristan. Tristan... He could fight me in the parking lot. I don't care. So Tristan would play the Moogle and would intentionally try to swerve and be vindictive, and he would always be mean to every NPC. And it was not out of like a, this is what my character would do. It was just kind of a, this is the character.
Is being a mean, vindictive jerk.
Yes.
I'm going to steal your stuff,
I'm gonna-
destroy your library.
Yep, he's gonna steal stuff. He tried to steal stuff from other characters, and he would try to get one over on everybody. But luckily, me and Nacho are adept at dealing with
That kind of
shenanigans, and he was not that good of a player.
Me using the Forge Cleric crafted what Jake and I called the kitty crate.
in case he was being naughty.
Oh yes, no, because
Which-
my big old fighter grabbed that Moogle and tasked his ass in the cat cage because
Let's
And yeah,
not
we created his character.
I don't know.
linger too long.
It's
on
pretty funny.
Animal cruelty.
Well, it's not animal cruelty. It's sentient and it's stealing from people.
It's a humanoid.
We just
So
put
it's
it.
a Kender, is what you're saying.
We just put it into a tiny little cat prison.
And you told me you set it on fire.
No, I
metal?
heat metaled the crate.
So you're
the kitty
brazen
crate.
bullying this Moogle then.
Yes.
It learned him.
That's 2 points towards evil for both of you.
Well,
Well,
to be fair,
good thing I was neutral.
yes. And second of all, the Kender is supposed to be a chaotic good to neutral good race, and he was clearly evil. So
Oh, everyone loves the Kender. How could you hate somebody who's a kleptomaniac jerk with no redeeming qualities?
Yeah, no, I shifted from neutral good to true neutral.
true nooch.
Regardless.
Dealing with that character.
So
Regardless, dealing with the spike,
the spike is going to try to put one over you somehow. The question is when and how.
when and how, and so the best advice
Because they want to win.
Yes, the best advice for dealing with them when they're coming up with a class: keep that leash short and keep it in the handbook.
You can give the Johnny some room to mess around, but you still want to probably make some edits for your game. Keep it in the player's handbook. Don't even give them the options of the Sword Coast Adventures Guide or whatever. I mean, you might give them Gloomstalker Ranger, but don't give them variants.
I'd say Xanathar's
Ranger, too.
fine. I'd say Xanathar is fine. I'd say everything that's been published is fine. But the second they come at you with something from the D&D Wiki or
from the DM's Guild or something.
GM's Binder or DM's Guild, because there's a lot of great and cool stuff out there, but just some of it hasn't been play tested. Some of it.
Sturgeon's law is that 90% of everything is absolute garbage.
And for all you know, they may have actually made one of those.
Yeah, and they are trying to pull one over you. But
Look, I found this on the D&D wiki. Oh, you made it.
yeah, so that's just classes. There's a lot when it goes on. So let's talk about role play really quick. How do we get a new player to role play? There's now I will say there is a bunch of great videos online already tackling this issue. Like every D&D YouTuber has covered this.
So we're not going to do ad nauseum on this.
Yes, but
I do have one thing I actually want to say.
Okay.
Which is that a lot of new players, especially Tammys or Jennies, are probably going to come to you with a character that is clearly a character from other media.
Yeah.
Like they're going to come to you with Batman or something. Let them do it. They want to do it. They'd enjoy it. They'll get it out of their system.
Yeah.
They'll have a good time. And as long as it's not ruining the fun for somebody else, what's the harm in it?
Exactly.
There's nothing new under the sun. There's no reason to just punish somebody for not being original.
Yeah, they want to play Batman. All right, then how are we gonna,
How are we going to integrate fantasy Batman?
how are we gonna make fantasy Batman? And how much money do you actually have, sir?
Yeah, like I
100
currently
gold. I'm poor. Sorry.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
I've been playing
by
this
Batman
most of my
standards.
life, and I am currently playing fantasy Han Solo,
Yeah.
which I'm sure Jake picked up on.
Oh, I did. But so when it comes to roleplay, just here's a couple of things that I picked up. So a lot of Johnnies are typically, because there's also that like the 9 player types, that floats around that's in the DM's guide and a couple other places.
We're talking about new players, though.
Yeah,
so.
we're talking about new players. But Johnnies typically tend to be the more acclimated to doing like the role playing and the acting. Sometimes they have trouble with it. Sometimes they don't. Again, Johnnies are just kind of
Encourage them, but also beware that you don't want them to be monopolizing the screen time.
yes, they can. When I was a brand new player, I was very guilty of that because people would get put on the spotlight and they didn't know what to say, and me, being drunk and knowing exactly what I was ready to say, and I've been waiting for 5 minutes to say it, would say it, and it was a very formative time. It was a big learning process for all of us.
Yes.
But
At the end of the day, remember that you're playing with 5 different people, and while some of them might have a good time not having the spotlight for a bit, not having the spotlight for extended periods of time or having it taken away from you by somebody who's already done a lot can be frustrating.
yes, so just try to rein
Do
them
not
in.
crush their dreams, but say, could you perhaps let this person finish his sentence before you start speaking?
A good metaphor for a Johnny is they are a bit like a very excited dog. You know, you just kind of, like you're out for a
Sorry,
walk
Jenny.
and they want to stop and they want to smell everything and they want to run up to all the people and stuff. And sometimes you just have to remind them that, hey, we're on a walk. You got to keep that leash a little tight and you got to keep moving and, and don't break their dreams. Sometimes let them sniff that tree. Definitely let them do their stuff, but you
Just don't
gotta
let them
reel them in.
completely dominate every scene.
But Timmy's, on the other hand, Timmy's are the ones who almost always have a hard time with that initial kind of role play because it can be a very uncomfortable thing.
Don't put them on the spot. At the very least, give them some sort of opportunity to either escape the situation or have their character not do anything particularly important.
Yes, try not to put the weight of
The spotlight.
the spotlight just directly on them if it doesn't seem like they want it. Some players just want to sit there and kind of observe and have their character occasionally grunt or do something.
I want to roll dice and they want to smack some heads in.
Yep.
That said, and I know I'm waffling pretty hard here, so bear with me, but you also need to at least give them the opportunity to take it if they want.
No, just, present them, a couple of times and you'll be able to tell right away. A few things that have really helped is, honestly, in the handbook and in Xanathar's and in Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide and everywhere you can find those extra little backgrounds and, like, those rollable tables, those are amazing. I have found so many players. A good example is actually our guest producer from last episode we did, Jesse. Jesse has tried to play in several of my games, and Jesse's a fantastic, he's good with voices, and he's actually, a good actor when put on the spot, but he could never really, figure out getting in a character's headspace. Until one time I gave him a pre-made sheet for a one-shot, and it just had, my character, flaws, likes, dislikes, all that stuff, and all the background information pre-rolled, and he just got it.
Yeah.
And I found with a lot of very new players, if you make them do that and kind of go through that step-by-step of, this is what he's like, this is what he doesn't like, and you can kind of take those roles and take those short little answers and expand upon it for a player. They can take that and they go, oh, I got it. That's,
And something that you should also try to encourage is that you're not trying to break as many molds here. Don't worry if something is cliche. And that's just general advice for Dungeons & Dragons in general.
Cliches are cliches for a reason.
Yeah. Sometimes
They work.
things are popular because they're good.
Yeah.
So let the Timmy or Tammy speak when they feel they're ready and try to help them get into that headspace.
Yeah, and again, the this is your life thing in the Xanathar's book is, if someone's having a problem with a backstory, I've used that a couple of times, and it's actually made great stuff.
Yeah.
Because suddenly it's like you just take every role and you just keep working with what you're being given, and you just sit down with a piece of paper and, okay, well, all right, and we'll put this together and we'll put that together and stuff, and you come up with a backstory with them, and suddenly they're like, oh, wow, I understand that person so much better.
Yeah.
And then another thing that helps with the Timmies and Tammies, that it's something I've had troubles with. I've seen other people have troubles with it. It's make sure that you're playing in a comfortable spot. Because if someone's not feeling comfortable, if they think there are too many people there, they could get shy and have stage fright.
Yeah.
My first time playing on Roll20, I'm sitting in my room in front of my computer, and I've got my roommate sitting there, and I'm sitting there like, this is really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your roommate you
Make
know,
sure
has
everyone's on the
obviously
same page.
has never seen you play D&D before.
Yeah, and other times, hey, we're playing at a new house. Here's other people I don't know.
You don't want your first introduction to be you pretending to be an elf.
Yeah.
So sometimes people can get shy from situations like that. So if your Timmy or Tammy has an issue and you think they're just being shy, figure out if there's something you can do to make them feel more comfortable.
Spikes rarely have problems with roleplay. Although usually it is very narcissistic
The Lord Commander of Mankind.
and, you know, again, the worst of the worst Spikes. It's usually very self-serving and
The Johnny and Jenny sort of, they take the spotlight because they have so much stuff they want to say.
yeah,
The Spike takes the spotlight because they want to be the one in the spotlight.
yes.
And I know those sound redundant, but you will know the difference when you see it.
You'll be able to see it because, you know, the Johnny just wants to get in the speech about, you know, saving the
Their
land.
tragic
and,
backstory.
You know, their tragic backstory and how they want to save the land and, you know, restore the proper king to the throne. And then the Spike is going to be,
No.
I can be king. It's a
I
dramatic way
think
to put
you've
it. But
talked too much. It's time for me to talk now. And
Yeah.
that amount of talking is any talking that does not directly involve them.
Yes. They are also, again, the ones who are going to be the most guilty of, well, my player would, you know.
Yeah, my character would do this, so.
So
I talk would disintegrate.
let's talk about the next little bit, and that is problems that can traditionally be ran into with these, you know, these three just very general outlines of a player.
Yeah, okay.
We're actually going to start with a Spike.
Again, Spike is not an inherently negative archetype as much as we talk down to it. The problem is that it just does not do very well in cooperative games.
In the very beginning, that's the thing. The Spike is going to have a difficult time understanding that, like, this is not a game that can be won. No one's really going to think you're a badass because your character is the best character on the table. It's about everybody having fun, and they just have a hard time realizing that. A lot of Spikes also come from athletic backgrounds, or at least backgrounds where they're used to competing.
Yeah.
And so, you know, everything where there is, you know, because you win fights and lose fights in D&D, when there's something where there's a winning and a losing dynamic, they usually find themselves, you know, just wanting to win. And it eventually, either Spikes quit playing the game, or they eventually
Metastasize.
yeah, they realize that this is about everybody's fun. And they can turn into Johnnies, or they turn into like rules lawyers.
Hopefully benevolent rules lawyers.
Yeah. You know, but for the most part, once they kind of learn that the game is not just about them and it's about the social contract that all of us have, that, hey, we are sitting down for 3 hours to pretend that we are other people, you know.
And we're going to have a good time.
And we're going to have a good time, and it's not about who gets all their stuff in this week, because if a DM's doing their job right, you know, everyone is eventually going to get that shine.
Yeah.
Might not be every week, but everyone is going to have their moment.
It will eventually happen.
So with Spikes, it's just, again, like we've been saying, because they're, you know, they've got a very specific, you know, thing. Just keep them on a short leash. Talk to them. Engage in conversation with them. If you're DMing and it's your table and they're being obnoxious and being a dick, let them know.
If they keep doing it, no matter who they are, remember that you have absolute control and you can boot them.
Yeah, you can boot them from the game. Don't do childish, dumb shit like, you know, meteor falls and you die and everybody gains a level, because even though that's funny,
For you, it's very frustrating and humiliating for them.
yeah, and they are the kind of person who doesn't like that kind of humiliation. Talk to them. Talking don't work. Tell them don't come back next week. Maybe come back in a couple of weeks, you know, if you can,
Think
you know,
about it.
think about it, you know.
And don't just ghost them. Make sure you actually communicate with them what
Why
the issues
things are
are. See if you can find some kind of middle ground.
If they're a friend, if they're an acquaintance or whatever, and they're just, you know, being a turd, because I have seen, you know, a lot on like the 5e forums and stuff of like, yeah, my, you know, I'm DMing and one of my good friends brought his friend, and his friend is just like being a total chode at the table, and I don't want to alienate my friend, you know. Then talk to both of them. That's all you can do, is sit them both down and be like, he's being a chode. I need you to help me not have him be a chode because he's ruining everybody else's time and giving me a headache as a DM.
I love how Jake points at me.
Remember that at the end of the day, there's a bunch of other people at the table too who have to put up with this. And just because you'd like to avoid alienating somebody you know doesn't mean that these people have to put up with it.
Yeah. Again, it's a social contract we all enter. You know, it's our time, not just your time.
Yeah.
Just keep them on a short leash and, you know, talk. You have to have very open communication. And then hopefully, maybe you'll get through that this is about everybody here and not just about them. Some people, it's a bit more ingrained. Sometimes people can, you know, it's everybody can change.
And always hope for the benevolent Spike.
Mm-hmm.
But true change must come from within.
Yes.
Or something like that.
So, Johnny and Jenny.
Make sure they don't seize too much of the spotlight from the other players.
Yep.
Make sure their dreams don't get crushed by somebody getting frustrated with that.
Allow them to have creative outlet, too, in the game.
It might be helpful if you have the time to do solo sessions with them to help.
Because these players are down AF for that. Like, a Johnny or a Jenny is going to love when you can do, like, a backstory episode. Or a, you know, like a, hey, let's do this little side thing for your character. You know, allow them to, you know, because a Johnny is, like, they're a person they've just fallen in love too hard with the game.
They think about this game when they're not playing. And that's normal for Dungeon Masters. It's also normal for more experienced players. It's not so normal for new players.
Yeah, for a new player, and like they find it and they love it, and they're thinking about stuff their characters can do all the time, you know, and they're thinking about next week's game and they're super excited. Reward that excitement and energy. Just
make sure it doesn't come at the expense of other people's fun and time.
Because a Johnny eventually, like the natural end evolution of a Johnny or a Jenny is
level
to
36 and with friendship
is to become a DM and start their own DMing tree. But
and thus the cycle begins anew.
Until then, they're going to be very energetic, and until they eventually mature and realize, like, you know, they like take a step back, you know, and they kind of, you know, they get a lot of their creativity out, and they take a step back and they kind of calm down.
They got to scratch that itch first.
Yeah.
What's going on in the comments section?
Oh, Kent was just agreeing with our. He had a little addendum to our Spike thing, and then, you know, don't roast the Spike in front of everybody. Talk to the Spike privately.
Yeah.
You don't want to, again, you don't want to humiliate them. They are still people. So,
yes,
even if they're being rude, they probably do not realize that they are being rude.
Also, good to hear from you, Kent, friend of the show, Kent Bettner, everybody.
Hi, Kent.
Back to it. With the Johnny, again, they'll eventually mature. They'll eventually calm down, you know, and all that passion and that energy of just finding a new thing that they really love is going to, you know, cool off a bit. And you just got to deal with the passion. It's like having a overly
friendly dog, as you mentioned.
Yeah. You know, it's like just a dog who is overly energetic and overly excited. As they get older, they'll slow down and they'll be the best dog you've ever had.
Yeah, they won't run and jump everywhere, but they'll still be right there, ready to go.
Is it time for a walk?
Is it time for a walk? But you know, they'll calm down. Johnny will eventually calm down. You just have to feed that creative spirit. Not let it die, not crush it and just tell them no all the time. Find ways to say yes, but. Work with them.
Or instead, of course. But.
Yeah. You know, but work with them. Just work with them as much as you can. Timmies are
very moldable.
They're moldable, but also too because they're the social
least
player.
Likely to not mature, but sort of develop further. I guess is they're not really here for the game; they're here for their friends.
Yeah, they're here for the. Oh yeah, no, I've always wanted to play D&D, and you know, y'all are my friends, so let me play. These are the people who they might do a campaign, they might do 2 campaigns, but eventually they will, you know, want to move on and go do other things, which is fine.
Enjoy the times you have.
Enjoy the times you have, and the best way to keep, you know...
I mean, they may eventually change into a regular player who's there mostly for the social dynamics, but
you know,
in that case, you sort of clarify them more as a kind of Johnny, ultimately.
Yeah,
so.
they could evolve into a Johnny. They could evolve into a Spike.
And then in which case, you ask yourself what you did wrong.
Yeah, no. How did you Obi-Wan this? How did you Obi-Wan this into the dirt?
They could also somehow evolve into the social DM that just plays really rules light.
Which is fine. I mean,
Yeah.
again, running Fate or Spirit of the Century or something is perfectly acceptable.
So there are many paths that your Timmy
Timmy
can
can take.
take.
But the thing that you really want to, work on with your Timmy is you need to keep them engaged.
Yes.
Engagement for a Timmy is key because they're
Do not
there.
keep them too far from the spotlight. Do not put them on the spot. But make sure their character is always there.
Make sure they're on the stage at all times. They just don't have to sing the solo.
Yeah.
And here's why. Most very social players are going to sit there and they are going to listen to the game. They're going to enjoy the game. But as less and less happens for them to really engage in, that's when the phones come out. That's when they start talking to another player who's, who they're friends with, sitting there at the table, who also has nothing going on. Sometimes when it gets really bad, like the magic cards come out, or other things like that, like stuff that distracts from the game. Because ultimately, if you're doing your job right as a DM, everyone is immersed. Everyone's in the headspace until you go, and that's where session ends.
That's the dream.
That's the idea. That's what you need to strive for every week. So try to keep them engaged. Ask them questions constantly. At least, what's your character doing? If it's in individual scenes, try to keep them short and sweet, or really just try to be so damn entertaining that they don't have time to pick up the phones.
I'd rather have them be in the popcorn studio.
Because the second a player pulls out their phone, like I have a pretty, I would call it not strict, but a very I'm that cool high school teacher, hey, just
make sure it's not dominating.
No phones, guys, please, no phones. But the second like a phone comes out or someone's like attention is drifting or wandering, or you gotta find ways to get them back engaged. Sometimes you gotta switch the scene, to over to them.
And then owlbear ninjas burst into the room.
Or what's the disco ninjas?
Oh, jeez, I can't remember. It's
What was it?
Jeez, well now I'm blanking. You put me on the spot. way too
Thanks
hard
for train wrecking us, Dave.
Doesn't matter. Point is, just you have to keep them engaged. And I guess let's do just a final little closing bit here on last things you really want to expect out of your new players, and any other bits of advice we didn't get to for helping new players.
Make sure at the very least that they understand the core mechanics, and if necessary, suggest them they write up like a note card with the most rolled numbers, and the dice. So if they say, if they have to look up every time what their perception roll is, suggest that you write this is the bonus you get to your perception just written down.
Yeah.
That's on the mechanical end of things, though.
Yeah, that's a mechanic thing. Not doing anything for...
And one other thing.
Oh, yes.
Sorry to interrupt. If you're going to introduce a new player, make sure you don't introduce them in the middle of a long-standing campaign. If they're a couple sessions in, it's fine. But I'd say any more than 5 or 6 sessions, and you're better off introducing them in a new campaign instead, because there's too much stuff they have to catch up on.
I will hit you with just like a slight tweak to that. If you think of your campaign as an arcs, there are definitely safe periods to introduce new players. But I will definitely agree with Paul in if this game group has been together for if this very campaign has been going on for over a year, don't bring someone new in.
Because then it's do I need a wiki to understand all these people?
Yeah, it's you gotta. It makes things really hard, and there's a bajillion callback characters, that the players will know, but new person won't know, and they're gonna feel really awkward.
Stupid.
And it breaks up everything.
I know when I joined in on your game, it took me a little bit to get up to speed.
Yeah, but you also came in right at a campaign change.
No, I came in there between arcs.
Yeah.
But so that's all I wanted to say.
My advice for when you have new players, like Paul said, have them write stuff down. When I was learning how to play, it was have a notepad, write down your health, your spells, what they do, your different items you pick up, and keep notes of other random stuff that may be useful.
Encourage note-taking. It's a good choice.
Yeah, so they don't have to sit there, flip through the book to find out what their spells do. It's right there written down for them.
Yeah.
So always keep a notepad handy, some extra scrap paper, something to write with.
A bunch of pencils.
Oh, yes.
Bunch of pencils.
You want to be the best DM ever? Go out and buy, like a 80 pack of mechanical pencils.
That's my big advice.
I think for me, it's, obviously, because again, like these 3 archetypes are so general, and we could actually probably talk about this for another 2 hours just to nail down like very specific finite things, but we ain't got that time. So, in closing, for me, it's when you got a brand new player, who's a Timmy, just again, focus on letting them have fun, give them cool spotlight moments, because they're not necessarily going to endeavor to create them for themselves.
Yeah.
So just give a Timmy like something cool to do. Like if you got a villain at 20 HP in a fight, and
Let him kill him.
And Timmy does an attack that's 13 damage. Let Timmy get the kill.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is shining in role play and doing other stuff. So let Timmy have the moment. Just drop that extra 7 HP and let the player who doesn't engage that much have a moment, and it will encourage engagement.
Yeah.
When it comes to more the Johnny players, just one last time for everybody in the back, just deal with the energy, deal with the creativity, let
it harness it, but
harness
don't
it, control it,
crush it.
Do not break their spirit.
I'm like a peacock. You gotta let me fly.
I've seen so many like players. I've read, because I may not comment on your forum post, but I am always there reading from the shadows, and I've seen so many people. Simba. I've seen so many people have their passion be broken for this game. Like, I'm new and my DM's a dick. And it's like, and I'm coming up with this idea and my DM's a dick. And that sucks, because ego's the talent killer, but I've been told by a lot of people that I'm pretty good at DMing. And I can't DM for everybody. And I want everybody to play this game and have a really good time. But I only have my asshole friends. So, it sucks to see, people who clearly have a newfound passion and love for the game just kind of get shit on a little bit. So if you're a DM and you've got that overly energetic puppy of a player who like has the player's handbook and just wants to do so much cool stuff, start teaching them how to DM.
Yes,
Find
but.
a way to, yes, but harness that energy, work with them, let them come up with cities. Like you want a Johnny to go above and beyond. Just be like, yeah, flesh out this city for me in somewhere in my campaign setting. Holy Christmas, you'll get 12 pages of backstory, and like they'll just word explosion all over you with like creative energy.
Surprise. Now go find 5 people and run this game.
Yeah. And then for the spike, and
Keep a pipe wrench handy.
always have a
blunt instrument within arm's reach.
Yeah, always have a. Now I was going to quote Mattis. Be polite, be courteous, and have a plan to kill them at all times.
Pretty much.
Also, though, and this actually is
Physical violence at the table is not condoned by the 3DMs podcast, such as threatening 13-year-olds over naming issues.
yes, but parking lot. Actually, no, this isn't really going to pertain to the spike. This is actually going to be just kind of a more in general for everybody. As a last bit of advice, is when players get angry, because new players are bound to get frustrated by something that happens in the game at some point, make sure you talk to them.
Yeah, don't let them just
Have an open dialogue. Like a Timmy might get frustrated because they feel, if they're playing Wizard and they're having a hard time playing Wizard, they're not keeping up, talk to them. Figure out a way to make it work for them. If Spike's being a dick, talk to them. If Johnny doesn't feel he's getting his stuff in, talk to them.
talking to people like adults solves so many problems.
Yeah, just sit down and have a correlation. And as the DM, it is your job to make everything work. You are the chef. You are, you are the leader. It's your table. It's your rules. And a lot of DMs just take the low road and just go my way or the highway. No, work with it. You got a new player who wants to play a ranger and he wants to play Beastmaster, even though Beastmaster from the player's handbook is fucking terrible. But this guy has his heart set on playing Beastmaster. Work with it. Make it effective. Find ways to buff him. Find ways to make it better.
Though, if you get really lucky, you could have an experience like I did running a game where I had one Timmy, 5 Johnnies, and a good Spike. No clue how I pulled that off for all new players, but they all had fun. They laughed. I murdered one of the Johnnies. they all laughed about it.
The
And then-
toaster laughed,
then
we
our-
shot the toaster.
Yeah, then our Spike made a stupid mistake, and then everybody made fun of him instead of the guy that just got killed.
Yeah. But it comes down to ultimately you are the person. You are the DM. You are in charge. And it's your job to, if they're going to not play optimally or they're going to have too much energy or they're going to be a dick, control it, harness it, work it for your table.
I think that's all of our time for today.
I think that's all we got. I'll do our ad read next week.
Sorry.
No, I looked at the ad read. They want a lot. It's not just a script. There's a lingo to break down. But I'm rambling on our airtime.
Oh, so we're not prepared for that.
I was not ready.
We're not ready to sell out.
I was
just
not
yet.
ready to sell out this week. But don't worry, next week. All right, guys. It's been a lot of fun. We're gonna figure out what we're gonna talk about next week because we don't really know. Probably gonna talk about the Eberron book because we bought it. We just
Ran out of time.
we talked about this all day. So, till next time, I'm Jake.
I'm Nacho.
I'm Paul.
And everybody, press F to pay respects to Nacho's truck. In the arms of the angel.
All right.
Goodbye.
How many times do we talk about my truck dying and it wasn't exploding? It only lit on fire one time in an unrelated incident.
Only lit on fire.
One time on an unrelated incident.
It only burned once.
Yeah. And it worked fine from that, and then the other side blew up.
Can't press F to pay respects.